The lightless and deserted train station was filled with an eerie silence in the late hours of the night. The night had been swallowed by darkness, illuminated only by the faint glow of the moon. The station's old stone walls had been cracked for years, yet they still stood, reminding of a forgotten past. The ticking of the silent clocks created a strange rhythm. Within this silence, water droplets dripping from the station's ceiling were heard by the sole passenger, who did not even know why they were here. This passenger was trapped in a desolate train station, uncertain of when they would depart. Hours, perhaps days, passed by. The passenger tried to endure the monotony of waiting alone, outside. As the night persisted, the moonlight gave way to the stars. However, neither a train nor another passenger had appeared. Feeling utterly alone, the passenger suddenly began to hear a distant noise. Initially, this sound seemed like a quiet dream, but with time, it drew nearer. And then, in a distant corner, they heard a whistle. The train was approaching. The train entered the station with a gleaming light. At this moment, the passenger had waited with hope for the train. But the scene inside the train was enough to send shivers down their spine. The windows and carriages were entirely empty, a passenger-less ghost train. The emptiness and silence of this moment made it feel like they had transitioned from a dream to reality. The moment the ghost train came to a halt, the passenger held their breath. However, both the inside and outside of the train were vacant, devoid of passengers. The passenger looked around with astonishment at this strange occurrence. They decided to find out the purpose of the ghost train and its passengers. Why was the train here? And where was it heading? They were ready to take brave steps to solve this mystery. But there was something they didn't know. This journey would be the beginning of a terrifying tale. With determination, the passenger courageously stepped into the ghost train. The carriages were silent, with only the faint swaying of the train and the sounds of its wheels on the tracks, drawing attention. But each carriage was empty, devoid of passengers. The reason why the train was here and where it was going still remained a puzzle. As the passenger progressed, they inspected the interior of each carriage. The seats were empty, the windows were closed, and everything was quiet. However, with each new carriage entered, they began to unravel the mystery of this strange train. The train appeared to be a vehicle slowly carrying the ghosts of the past. Finally, as they approached the end of the train, they noticed the strangest thing. Inside the last carriage, everything was the same as the others, except for one detail. There was another passenger. The passenger in this carriage, just like the first one, looked around in confusion. Their eyes were filled with fear and curiosity. The passenger approached the other passenger and tried to speak to them. However, the other passenger responded only with fearful glances and behaved as if they didn't recognize them. The passenger attempted to understand who this other passenger was and why they were here, but received with no answers. At the end of the train, the passenger came to a stop, unable to move further. Suddenly, the train began to move again. It started to speed up, and the passenger couldn't turn back. The other passenger, on the other hand, continued to silently gaze around them. The passenger was determined to unravel the mystery of this strange journey. They would do their best to understand why the ghost train was without passengers and where it was heading. However, every step they took was filled with more mystery and fear. The secret of the ghost train was drawing the passenger into a more complex world. The passenger continued to remain silent with the other passenger. Inside the ghost train, the train was speeding along, and the passing views from the window were blurry under the pale light. The passenger was pushing themselves to find out why they were here and where they were going. The other passenger remained silent, but their eyes seemed fixated on something. The passenger tried to see what had captured their attention. Suddenly, they noticed a strange change in the view passing by the window. The outside landscape was transforming into a dark forest. The trees were dry and lifeless, their leaves fallen, and the sky was gloomy. The train was rapidly heading into the depths of the forest. The passenger tried to understand the reason behind this change, and suddenly, the other passenger stood up. The other passenger began murmuring something while looking out of the window. At first, it sounded incomprehensible, but then the words became clearer. It was a song, an old and forgotten song. The passenger tried to comprehend the meaning of this strange moment, and they felt a peculiar vibration coming from the train. The train had entered the ominous forest, and now it was demanding something from the passengers, while the other passenger continued to murmur their song. Suddenly, the doors of the train opened. Cold wind and the eerie silence of the forest rushed inside. The train had brought the passengers here, and now it was releasing them into the heart of the forest. As the passenger tried to make sense of this sudden turn of events, the other passenger began to exit the train. However, after that moment, they couldn't see what happened next because the train rapidly moved away and disappeared. The passenger was left alone in the forest. The purpose of the ghost train and why it was without passengers remained a mystery. Now, in this eerie forest, they began to contemplate what to do alone. Filled with fear and uncertainty, they decided to move forward to unravel the mystery of this strange journey. However, there was something they didn't know. The forest had its own mysteries, and the passenger would uncover more secrets in this dark world. Alone in the dark and silent place, where the ghost train had left them within the forest, the passenger was surrounded by a landscape of dry and lifeless trees. The fallen leaves covered the ground, and the entire scene was shrouded in a chilling silence. After the disappearance of the train, the passenger continued to advance with determination. By walking deeper into the forest, they hoped to understand why they were here and uncover the secret of the ghost train. However, each step revealed a more intricate mystery. The passenger began to hear strange sounds, disrupting the silence of the forest. At first, it sounded like a distant melody, but it became clearer. It was the same song the other passenger had been murmuring inside the train. However, now it was closer and more unsettling. The sound seemed to come from among the trees, as if the trees themselves were accompanying this melody. Their branches swayed in the wind, and their leaves followed the tune. The passenger attempted to decipher the meaning of this strange song and uncover the mystery of the forest. As the melody enveloped the passenger, a peculiar light suddenly appeared between the trees, deep within the forest. This light seemed like an opening. The passenger began to walk towards it, determined to investigate the source of this light. As the passenger approached the light, their eyes were met with a dazzling sight. Within the forest, an old train station had appeared, but it was abandoned and in ruins. The passenger wondered if they had been brought here along with the ghost train. While wandering around the station for a moment, they came across the other passenger from inside the train. However, this passenger was no longer singing and seemed ghostly. Their face was pale and expressionless. The strange transformation of the second passenger unnerved the first. The abandoned station in the middle of the forest, and the peculiar passenger made the mysteries of why the ghost train had no passengers, and why they were brought here even more complex. The passenger needed more information to solve this puzzle. However, every step forward was filled with more uncertainty and fear. They had no choice but to delve deeper into uncovering the secret of the ghost train. The passenger encountered the strange passenger they found at the abandoned station left by the ghost train within the forest. The second passenger had ceased singing and appeared as if they had lost their soul. Their face was pale and expressionless, resembling a ghost. The passenger approached the second passenger and attempted to communicate with them, but the second passenger only responded with vacant stares. No words, no reaction came from them. It was as if the second passenger was trying to remember something, but failing to do so. While exploring the surroundings of the station, the passenger made a peculiar discovery. There were signs that the station had been abandoned years ago, but there were also fresh footprints indicating recent use. These footprints hinted at something else within the forest. The passenger decided to follow the footprints and began to advance into the forest. They knew they would encounter more mysteries and uncertainties within the forest, but they had to continue this journey to uncover the secret of the ghost train. As the passenger walked deeper into the forest, their eyes were drawn to an area that was becoming increasingly illuminated. In the center of this area, there stood a massive monument. The monument was adorned with ancient symbols and images that resembled the symbols the passenger had seen on the walls of the train station. Approaching the monument, the passenger began to examine the symbols inscribed upon it. While attempting to decipher the meaning of these symbols, they suddenly heard a chilling sound emerging from the depths of the forest. This sound was the haunting whistle of the ghost train. that had come from the depths of their dreams. The ghost train had reappeared and was returning to the station this time. The passenger was determined to make one final effort to unravel the mystery of this ghost train and understand why they were here. However, this journey was about to draw them into an even greater enigma. When the passenger saw the reappearance of the ghost train, they were filled with both curiosity and fear. The reasons behind why this train was here and why it was devoid of passengers remained a puzzle. They believed that deciphering the mystery of the symbols beside the monument might help, and now the train's return might assist in solving this mystery. The ghost train approaching the train station caught their attention with a whistle that echoed through the silence once more. The other passenger inside the train still gazed expressionlessly at their surroundings. The passenger decided to disembark from the train for one final effort to solve this mystery. Upon returning to the train station, the passenger attempted to decipher the meaning of the symbols. The symbols seemed to allude to an ancient legend. The legend believed that the ghost train and the forest carried the souls of the departed. These symbols indicated the way to release those souls. As the passenger deciphered the symbols, they pressed upon the monument, and a mysterious burst of light ensued. The symbols and images surrounding the monument began to come to life. The other passenger inside the ghost train suddenly opened their eyes, and their expression returned. The silence inside the train came to an end, and the second passenger began to recall the train. The power of the monument had unveiled the mystery of the ghost train and why its passengers were here. The passenger and the second passenger were now sharing this secret. As the ghost train continued to move silently, the passenger and the second passenger were left behind at the station. Now, this dark and mysterious journey had come to an end. The ghost train would continue to serve as a vessel for the souls of the departed, but this time, they were part of this enigmatic world. The passenger had found answers to many questions at the end of this strange adventure, but the exact reason why the ghost train was here would remain a secret. This mysterious tale concluded with a passenger drawn into the unknown and uncertainty on a journey that reached its end.